Welcome into Jazzy Mama Games. Today we are working on day 2 of island life on our new island of Dejavu. We just got Blathers on our island, so we have to go say hi to him. And we want to work towards getting as many Nook miles as possible to progress our island. However, I did make quite a few mistakes on day 2 on my island, so I want to take this as a learning opportunity to show you what not to do on your island and how you can do it the right way to get the most out of your island living experience. Now, without further ado, let us go and say hi to Blathers. Hello, Blathers, my favorite little owl. Blathers is interested in collecting fish, fossils, and insects, and he wants you to go and find as many of them as you can for him, all the new ones. So he's going to give us a vaulting pole recipe so that we can get over the river to explore the other side of the island. He needs 15 more specimens in order to open his actual museum. But on my way out, I discover Gulliver. Gulliver is a sailor who often washes up on the shore of your island. For whatever reason, he is constantly falling off of his boat and he needs you to help him. He takes so much time to get him to wake up. Look at me. I'm trying over and over and over again. And it's just like, okay, one more. And then finally he wakes up and he asks you for your help. So Gulliver is going to ask you to either find him his communicator pieces in the sand or in the water. If it's in the water, you would need a swimming costume or swimsuit to be able to go swimming. But at this point, we don't have that. So luckily, he asked us to find his communicator parts in the sand for him. But I currently don't have a shovel, so I need to go get resources. And this brings us to one of our first mistakes in the game. As you can see, I am going to chop wood, but before you chop wood, you should always shake a tree while holding your net. Because sometimes when you shake a tree or you chop wood, things can fall out of that tree and you don't want it to be a wasp. Because wasps sting your face. So always make sure that before you shake a tree or you chop down a tree, make sure that you use your net in your hands because you want to catch those bugs in the net before they can sting you. So that is going to be one of your very first tips that you need to know. Use a net. It will save your face. So as you can see, I am not forgetting it again. I am using my net every time now, even here. And sometimes when you shake the trees, you will get money instead of sticks. So that is a bonus of shaking trees. So always shake your trees with a net, and then I don't always pick my stuff up right away. I like to just go through and make a bunch of stuff on the ground and then come through and pick it up when I'm done. Now that I've collected my resources, I'm going to go back to resident services to craft what I need. So at this point, the two main things that I need are a shovel and a vaulting pole. So we're going to go ahead and craft those things so that we're able to complete our next tasks of collecting computer components and collecting fossils. I also decided to go ahead and make a campfire because of our little campsite that we have set up. I want to be able to make that into an actual campsite with our villagers. And I need to go get some medicine since I got stung by wasps. So since I don't have a recipe for that yet, I'm going to go in and get myself some medicine. And I also bought the 2 chairs that were available so that I can use those in our campsite as well. Now back to our campsite, I go ahead and start setting up camp. Setting up camp or decorating the exterior of your island is one of the ways that you can get Nook miles. So it's a very easy and fun way to collect some points in the game. So I'm just setting up a little campfire area for the villagers to relax in around the fire and make it just feel a little bit more like an actual campsite. I know the chairs don't match, but I just wanted to make sure that I had both kinds in my inventory. So that's personal preference. You could just get the 2 chairs of the same kind, but like I said, I just wanted to get the inventory building up by getting one of each. So that is a matter of personal preference. And I drop some wood for the fire, and I come back here and I take my medicine, and voila, my face is ready to get back to our quest of finding the components for Gulliver. And this leads us to our next mistake: running around shells without a net. So I just picked up a white shell, and that was a normal shell. But sometimes you come across a shell that looks normal and it's actually a hermit crab. And if you're not ready with your net, you might miss it because they can run away and then you've missed your shot. So if you're going to approach a shell like this, one of these spirally white shells, I highly suggest having a net out just in case it ends up being a hermit crab. So when you want to find things in the sand, you're going to look for these little black holes that show up where it looks like sand is coming out of the dirt. They're not always there. They kind of come and go. So you have to be patient and walk along the beach slowly, because if you run, you might miss them. You see how it's just a black hole. It's very small. It comes and goes. So be very careful. You also want to be on the lookout for message in a bottle on the beach. Those are a great way to get a new recipe every day. So make sure that you open that and you learn your new recipe of the day. And I came over here and I was like, seriously, Gulliver, seriously, you have one right next to you and you can't even be bothered. You're just really expecting me to do all of the work. Like, you were right there. And then it was just a shell. And I was like, okay, maybe you're off the hook on this one since it wasn't actually a component. And look, once again, no net. There's a hermit crab. And this time he really did get away. You really have to remember, if it's that kind of shell, make sure you have your net. Now that we found the last component, I go back to Gulliver and I hand them over so that he can contact his crew to rescue him. Gulliver is very grateful for your help, and he offers to reward you by sending something in the mail. Gulliver always sends something that is centered around world travel, so things from different places, and it's always something that you cannot get in your regular store. So make sure that you help him when you see him on your island so you can get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. Now I try to head out to go to the other side of the island to look for fossils, but I'm distracted by this balloon, and then I realize I don't have a slingshot, and that is going to be the next mistake that I made. Make sure that as soon as you can, you purchase a slingshot from Timmy and Tommy. That way you can collect balloons when you find them around the island. At this point in the game, the store doesn't have a lot of stuff for you to buy, so it's really crucial that you're able to collect those balloons, because they sometimes drop items that are not in the store right now, and that can really help you grow your catalog to decorate your house early in the game. I see that the balloon is gone, so I missed that opportunity because of that mistake. So I am moving on to the next part of my quest, the original quest of collecting fossils for blathers. So we now get to use that pole that we crafted to head to the other side of the island. Before collecting the fossils, I decided that I wanted to take a moment to just explore this part of the island because I hadn't been over here before. So I just kind of look around and get a feel for the layout and where everything is. And this is a good opportunity for me to ask that if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing to my channel so you can see more of my Animal Crossing and other gaming content as it comes out. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back to our main quest of finding fossils for blathers and see what other mistakes I made on the second day of playing on my island. You know something's buried under the ground when you see this little star mark on the ground? Often that's going to be fossils, but it can also be that someone buried something underground and you could dig it up like treasure. So here I am looking for those star-shaped marks and finding fossils that I can take to Blathers for assessing them to see what kind of fossils they actually are. Did you know that if you want to fill in a hole but you don't want to use your shovel, you can press the Y button and you'll kick the dirt in with your feet? While I'm over here, I want to collect resources from these rocks, so I pick up some of the weeds and I start to hit the rock with my shovel. But this is another one of my mistakes where I missed some of the weeds, and because of that, it's not able to kick out any more resources for those spots. So that's 2 less pieces of resource because I forgot to pull all the weeds. So make sure that the area around your rock is all the way clear before you start to hit your rock with your shovel so that you can maximize the resources that you obtain. Another handy trick that you can do is to make 3 holes in a line and then stand where the middle hole is, and you can hit your rock really quickly, and this keeps you from moving away because when you hit your rock, you get a bit of recoil that causes you to move, and if you're not careful, it can make you miss out on some of the resources. So by putting these holes there, it keeps you from being knocked out of the way and allows you to make sure that you always get all of the resources as long as you're pressing the A button fast enough. You can also, other than resources, find money in the rocks. So sometimes the rocks will kick out bells. You always have 1 bell rock on your island every day, and then the remaining ones are all resources. So make sure you go through and collect those every day because that can really increase the amount of bells and resources that you have. Another trick for getting bells on your island is to find these glowing holes on the ground. There's going to be one on your island every day, and it will have 1,000 bells buried inside. If you bury 1,000 bells back into this hole, it's going to grow a money tree with 3 bags of 1,000 bells. However, the mistake I made is that I buried the 1,000 bells, whereas if you bury 10,000 bells, you are going to get a money tree that has 3 bags of 10,000 bells. So it's always better to bury a bag of 10,000 bells so that you get 30,000 bells off of the tree instead of 3,000. Because the tools in the beginning of the game are so easy to break, I wanted to go back to the store to see if I could buy stronger tools. You can't get stronger tools, so I thought maybe the DIY for Beginners recipe book would have the recipes for the stronger tools. However, that was not the case. After opening the recipe book and seeing what was inside, I found that it was a couple of simple recipes for things that are handy around a campsite, like a frying pan and a stone bench and a wash tub. So these are just some of the things that you can get with that recipe book, but you do not get the stronger tools. In the winter, you can find these snowballs laying on the ground, and if you take the time to roll them around to the proper size, you can stack 2 of them together to make yourself a snowman. If you do make a snowman and he is the perfect proportion, then he will reward you by giving you a winter recipe to make something out of snow and a large snowflake. If you watch, you can see that there are small snowflakes that fall from the sky and float around. You can catch those with your net to use to make these winter recipes, but you can only get the large snowflakes from making a perfect snowman. So it's very important that when you make your snowman, he's the right size. However, today I did not get them quite the right size. You can see they look very similar in size. So I have to work it around and try to make it work for me. But in the end, he does not end up being a perfect, happy snowman, and I did not get my reward. So make sure that you get him to look the right size. It's important that you know where both of your snowballs are before you start building your snowman, because what happened here was I rolled the first one, and the second one ended up being very far away and got much too big before I could get it on top of the snowman. So double check where your snowballs are before you start rolling them to make sure that you're going to be able to have the perfect size snowman. Another mistake I made was trying to hit this rock, but having a villager nearby. The villager came over and started talking to me, and I wasn't able to hit the rock to be able to get all of the resources before the timer ran out. They do end up giving me a recipe, but it's only for the leaf umbrella, which is like the simplest thing. And my shovel broke just to be the icing on the cake. But hey, at least I can build a leaf umbrella now. Now to head back to Blather's excavation site. I want to make this into like an excavation dig site around the outside. So we'll see if we get there. But I really need him to assess these fossils so I know what kind of fossils they are. However, in order to do my plan of making it look like he is in a tent at an excavation site, I don't want him to turn his tent into an actual museum. Because of that, I don't actually give him the fossils after having him assess them. That's not something that I recommend if you're trying to actually progress your game. When you want your game to progress, you want to make sure that you bring him the fossils, he assesses them, and that if he doesn't have that fossil, you hand it over so that he can grow the museum. You want to do the same with all of your new fish and new bugs that you catch as well. So if when you catch something, you see that little yes, that's your cue to know that you haven't caught that before and to take it on over to Blather's. But because I don't want him to grow out of this tent just yet, I am keeping the fossils and not handing them over. In order to collect some more Nook Miles and progress our island, I am getting a bit of fishing done. You can see when I first catch the fish, it says that yes at the very beginning. That's your sign that you haven't caught this before, so it will not be in the museum. If you ignore that yes and you sell that fish, the next time you catch it, you won't get that same notification. So it can get a little bit confusing on whether or not you've donated that before if you don't automatically donate it the first time you see that notification. So it's always recommended that if you get that yes exclamation at the beginning, you go ahead and donate it to Blather's instead of selling it. However, like I said, I don't want him to grow his tent, so I'm going to complicate things and bring everything to Timmy and Tommy to sell. They do make you a decent amount of money selling fossils, but I always recommend donating fossils first, and then in the future, if you get that same fossil, Blather's will return it to you for you to sell and make a profit off of it. Selling fish, catching fish, both of those things help us to collect Nook Miles, but another good way to get Nook Miles and to get your island to progress as far as how nice it is to go ahead and craft some new items that you can lay outside of your houses to decorate your island. So I'm collecting my resources that I've saved up, and I'm going to go to the crafting table to make a few more decorative things to put around our campsite. This is where buying that DIY for beginners recipe book is going to come in handy because it gives you recipes for things that you can put around your island. For example, I craft this frying pan and a stone stool to add to my campsite. Now it's time to go and place them to make it look nice. So this is our campground so far. I want to use the stone stool as kind of a table since we already have chairs. So I place the stone stool and get it where I want it, and then I can put the frying pan on top and make it look like it's a small table for where we would put the pan to eat out of. So little things like this can really help make your island feel like home from the very beginning. It's something that I really recommend trying to do, and it can help you to get your points. And remember, those points are going to help you to be able to unlock the ability to upgrade your tent to a house. So those are very important to prioritize in the very beginning parts of Animal Crossing. Because I'm in the tent, I don't have a lot of room right now, so I'm just dropping my resources around back. And then you'll see I am organizing all of my tools. That's something that kind of slowed me down earlier. So I'll say that's one of the things that I did that was a mistake on day 2, was not having my tools organized. Having organized tools allows you to be able to switch between them easier and know where to go with them. So for example, the hermit crab that I missed, I probably would have been able to catch it if my tools had been organized. And this is another example of why it's important to have your net when you shake trees, because not only are there wasps, but sometimes you can find spiders in the trees as well. After my tools are kind of breaking, I just decide to gather some things and I see a balloon. And this is my opportunity, guys. I missed my opportunity earlier, but I have a slingshot now and I'm not going to miss my chance again. So I go on over and I get my balloon and see what is inside. And it is a frozen fence recipe. So this is going to be one of those recipes that needs snowflakes, and it probably will need a large snowflake as well. So we managed to help Gulliver and we managed to get across the river to find fossils. We assessed the fossils and we decided that we were going to sell them. We collected a bunch of Nook points and now I am just clearing out my inventory for the night and making sure that everything is set so that when I come back to the game for the next day, everything is starting out on good terms. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me on day 2 of island life. I hope you learned something from all of my mistakes today, and I wish you the best on your island journey. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye!